Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. This Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather, 21st day of August, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. And up first, we've got hazardous weather graphics that have no hazardous weather on them. No advisories, watches, or warnings, again, anywhere around the state for tonight or Sunday, and probably through Monday as well, the way it looks right now. So looking pretty good in that regard around the entire state. Otherwise, satellite imagery, you can see clouds, another band of clouds pushing onto the central western Arctic coast and sliding eastward there with a low pressure northwest of Point Barrow, kind of the comma-shaped cloud formation there, signifying the at least the upper level low center, and surface low not too different, farther away from it, maybe a little bit to the east. Otherwise, another system, you can see clouds, thicker band there along the approaching the southwest coast, mostly just mid and high level cirrus coming inland there, streaming more rapidly eastward in toward the northern Susitna Valley, across the northern Kuskokwim Valley there, with the stronger upper level winds with just some cirrus. Otherwise, mostly sunny, nice day across south central Alaska. A few clouds around Kodiak Island, and sunshine. A lot of temperatures rising to lower 70s, both at Seward and Cordova this afternoon. 3 p.m. temperatures, 72 degrees in those locations due to some light or some offshore winds, 10 to 20 miles an hour to the north at Seward, and Cordova about the same thing, northeast winds about 10 to 15 miles an hour, and maximum sunshine, so 70s in those locations. Otherwise, seeing mid to upper 60s, a lot of places, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula area, and southeast coast, weak disturbance swinging through there with some shower activity, light showers going on, only 3/100 of an inch, 12-hour amount at Sitka, and about 4/100 at, Wrangell had about 4/100 of an inch, and I believe Juneau had only 1/100 of an inch, so real light showers of that very weak system moving through. And the system up there along the western Arctic coast, that brought about 1/3 of an inch of rain to Cape Lisburne, as they're kind of, the frontal boundary there kind of laying parallel, not moving quite as rapidly across the far western Arctic coast, the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area. So they had a little bit more rain, as well as other areas there. Atasuk picked up about 1/10 of an inch of precipitation, which is off to the northeast there, southwest of the central coast. And that precipitation bringing about 1 to 2/10 of an inch across the north slope as it moves eastward. Otherwise, Cold Bay picked up, or actually St. Paul Island had, with the system, picked up about 6/10 of an inch of precipitation. That's a 12-hour amount. And at 3 p.m., Cold Bay had about 1/2 an inch, with winds 30 to 35 miles an hour to the south-southeast there along the Alaska Peninsula, and coming down over the western Alaska Peninsula with the main low center tracking just to the north there, and the main gradient with the front off to the east. It's a little breezy with that, and rain starting to spread into the Bristol Bay area and the southwest coast late this afternoon, but you can see Yukon Delta along the coast and inland, some sunshine breaks there, as well as just north of the Bering Strait. Then you get into the band of clouds and some areas of light rain there for the western Arctic coast, North Slope areas. Showers slowly diminishing over the eastern interior, but rain mostly cloudy throughout much of, or into the mid-afternoon hours, with showers not as widespread this afternoon as they were this morning. And for example, Delta Junction picked up about 1/10 of an inch, and Fort Wainwright had 1/4 of an inch, and most of that was from this morning. Much lighter amounts, Fairbanks had just a few hundredths of an inch at the International Airport there. And there's that weak system dropping across the panhandle with, looks like quite a bit of clearing off the coast. They're already showing up over the northern areas, and I'll be drying out and continuing overnight tonight and through tomorrow, looking pretty good out that way. Forecast for tonight, Again, all the showers southeast and east of the panhandle there with clearing skies, just a few lingering clouds. So partly to mostly clear conditions tonight, light winds, and southern Alaska interior right down to northern Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, partly mostly clear skies with light wind conditions. Clouds increasing though, Kuskokwim Valley to the Alaska Range, especially later tonight. And then across southern Cook Inlet as that system pushes northeastward with rain spreading across Kodiak Island and making headway into the southwest interior to about the Kuskokwim Mountains, maybe the southern Kuskokwim Valley, getting some light rain late tonight. And light rain periods of or showers for the Alaska Peninsula, a couple of troughs dropping southward there. So low clouds, fog, rain, drizzle for the Pribilofs on down to the Fox Islands. Very weak low farther to the west there keeps a chance of rain for the far western Aleutians. And the front hung up and weakening along the Brooks Range, just areas of showers or light precipitation with that probably most extensive on the eastern Arctic coast as well as along the northwest coast of the westerly flow there. But Brooks Range looking just scattered showers, but winds lighter from the gusty winds you had today of 40 to 60 miles an hour. They had reported through the passes of the Brooks Range today. That'll be much lighter tonight. And even along the Arctic coast, winds starting to drop off, maybe picking up one more time with that trough swinging onto the western central coast. Otherwise, moving on to tomorrow, you can see rainfall chances increase across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula with rain getting into the greater Anchorage area probably by 4 p.m. or best chance in the later part of the afternoon. That'll continue through tomorrow evening with the first round, and state looks pretty wet tomorrow for the Kuskokwim Valley, Bristol Bay, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, periods of rain, some areas seeing a little more than others, and also looks continued unsettled and damp for the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, periods of light rain, fog, maybe winds 15 to possibly as high as 25 miles an hour out of the southeast, and that's about it. Partly mostly sunny for the southeast coast, eastern North Gulf Coast stays dry with some sunshine, Copper River Basin, along the Yukon, Tanana River Valley areas up to the northeast, and that front's hung up very weak and still kicking off a few scattered showers from the northwest coast up to the eastern Arctic coast, but the central coast will be dry with light winds and a little breezy there around the Pribilof Islands and the Yukon Delta coast, but nothing too serious. Otherwise, pretty light winds over the Aleutian southern Bering Sea. Moving on to Monday, periods of rain return to the North Gulf Coast and southern Alaska looking kind of cloudy and damp, drier with a little more sunshine to the north and over the Panhandle and the western Aleutians. Lows tonight, 30s and 40s over the interior and lower 50s for the Alaska Peninsula. Highs tomorrow, mid to upper 60s for the Panhandle, mid 60s over the eastern interior, otherwise everywhere else in the 50s. Lows 30s North Slope Arctic coast the following morning, Monday morning, followed by highs in the afternoon, 55 to 60 over the central interior and southern Alaska, 60 to 65 over the southern southeast coast, and mid-30s for the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. A lot of IFR there from Kobuk, Noatak Valley, northwest coast, Brooks Range, North Slope, and central and western Arctic coast, marginal VFR, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And then marginal VFR giving way to VFR along the Yukon River and southward, except for the Alaska Range into the White Mountains there and the central interior, then VFR, southern interior, and then IFR pushing in across Togiak Bay, Kuskokwim Bay, Nunivak Island, and up across Kodiak Island, marginal VFR, Kamishak into Kachemak Bay, southern Kenai Peninsula, VFR, Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, and the northern Panhandle, some marginal VFR over the southern southeast coast, and mostly IFR for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for the afternoon, shaping up like this, still a lot of IFR there, Bering Sea and the Aleutians, although possible VFR for ADAC and the central Aleutians there, marginal for ATCA. Otherwise, IFR on the increase, southwest interior into the Kuskokwim Valley, right up to the western Alaska Range, marginal VFR pushing up into around Kenai, Soldotna, Kiski area, and then western Cook Inlet, not quite making it to the Susitna Valley, hopefully. Central interior, VFR, all the way up to the Brooks Range, right on down to the North Gulf Coast, southern Prince William Sound, Montague Island eastward to Cape St. Elias, and a little to the east of there, marginal VFR. VFR for the southeast coast. And for the morning on Monday, IFR Northern Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley, across the Brooks Range, North Slope, all of the Arctic coast, Northwest coast, interior areas, Noatak Valley, and Northern Seward Peninsula, Bering Sea, IFR, Aleutians, IFR, except for the Fox Islands, split their VFR, or marginal VFR, south side of the Alaska Peninsula, but IFR, Kodiak Island, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, right into the Susitna Valley, Kuskokwim Valley, up into the central interior. So a big push IFR coming into the southern part of the state, but marginal VFR to the central Copper River Basin, Wrangell Mountains and the eastern Alaska Range on up into the Yukon Flats, VFR. And for the southeast coast, central and south coast IFR with marginal VFR eastward to the border, but the northern area staying VFR. For the afternoon, that burns back. VFR for the Panhandle, except for the north coast, stays marginal. And up to about Yakutat, IFR, South Central Alaska, Prince William Sound, marginal of the Copper River Basin, north of the Eastern Alaska Range, Upper Tanana Valley, White Mountains, 40-mile country, VFR. IFR, mostly southwest interior, all the way up to the lower Yukon River Valley and deltas through the Bering Strait. Bering Sea, mostly IFR, some marginal VFR thrown in, and IFR for the Central Eastern Arctic coast. Passes Anatuvik IFR, turning toward marginal VFR, or it will become marginal by noontime for both Anatuvik and Adigan through the afternoon. Probably won't see any VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR to start, conditions, ceilings, visibilities falling to marginal VFR later in the afternoon. I think rainy will stay VFR the entire day, and windy definitely will stay VFR the entire day, as will Isabel, Mintasta, and Tanita. Portage also VFR. Chilkoot and White looking good, VFR. Freezing levels 2,000 feet back in the picture here, down across the north slope to the almost to the Brooks Range, and then 4,000 to 8,000 feet through the north central interior, but 10,000 feet holding over the southern and southwest part of the state, as well as the Aleutians, and roughly about 6,000 feet or so, 6,000 to 7,000 feet for the Panhandle. Icing, nothing too serious, although some isolated moderate rime icing possible coming in with the moisture into Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay. Light to very isolated moderate rime icing, just a threat for Kuskokwim Valley and the lower Yukon River and Delta areas, and just a slight chance up there along the Brooks Range and the eastern Arctic coast. Jet stream, westerlies 90 knots over the, coming right across the Yukon Flats there. Takes a turn to the south-southeast, 75 knots northern Panhandle, southeasterly 65 knots Bristol Bay, westerlies 95 knots western Aleutians. And at 9,000 feet, 20 to 35 knot winds coming around that Bering Sea low west of Nunivak Island, and the Arctic low still kicking the winds up to 35 knots on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And then for 3,000 feet southeast, 40 knots there coming across Kuskokwim Bay through the Kamishak Gap. Otherwise 30 knots from the northwest across the eastern Aleutians. Look for isolated moderate chop, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, and the Fox Islands and Pribilofs for the day Sunday.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces, undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources, and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, not much different from what we saw yesterday. Still some thin ice there, central eastern Beaufort Sea coast, especially north of the Barrier Islands, but no big changes in the forecast for the next 4 or 5 days. Coastal water forecast for the southeast coast, Sunday. Northwest winds 15 to 20 knots there on the south coast, seas 7 to 8 feet, and variable to northwest breeze at 10 to 15 knots on the north coast. Central southern inside waters, northwest 15 tomorrow with 3-foot seas. Lynn Canal 20 knots from the north, seas 4 feet. Outlook for Monday. Lynn Canal south winds 15 knots with 3-foot seas. South to southeast breeze over the central southern inner channels at 10 to 15 knots, seas only 2 to 3 feet. South coast, southerlies 15 to 20 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas, and then southeast 20 to 25 knots on the north coast. A little pickup in the wind there with seas building 7 to 8 feet. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow in the eastern North Gulf Coast, looking light and variable. 10 knot winds, 2 to 4 foot seas. Western North Gulf Coast east at 15 knots. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay. Winds expected out of the east at 25 knots with seas 4 to 8 feet. And for Cook Inlet, northwest breeze at 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. Outlook for Monday. Cook Inlet, north to northeast breeze 15 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas. Northeast 15 for Kamishak Bay, seas 5 feet. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands. Northeast winds 30 knots and east northeast winds 30 knots. Small craft advisories for all of the North Gulf Coast with seas at 8 feet. Prince William Sound, northeast winds 20 knots. And for the Kodiak Island area, east side of the island, and Fognak Island, southerlies 20 knots, northeast 20 for Shelikof Strait, southeast 20 Bristol Bay, west-southwest for the Alaska Peninsula, 20 knots, 4 to 7 foot seas. And for the day on Monday, southwest 25 knots for the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, fall back to about 20 knots in the same direction for Bristol Bay. Cape Sarachev to Sitkinak and up the east side of Kodiak Island. Winds will be west at 20 knots with seas right around 7 to 8 feet. Winds stay northeast in Shelikof Strait, only 15 knots, though, with 4 foot seas. Fox Islands, eastern Aleutians, west winds 20 to possibly 25 knots, seas 6 to 8 feet. 20-knot winds for Adak and Atka from the west, seas 5 to 6 feet. Southwest 20 for Amchitka Island and Kiska to Shimia, southwest 15, 5-foot seas. And for Shimia to Kiska, southwest winds 15 knots on Monday, and Amchitka, call it northeast at 15, seas 5 feet. Variable to east at 10 to 15 knots, pretty well laid down for the central Aleutians. Unmak Island, west winds 15 knots on Alaska Island, west at 20 knots with 5 to 7-foot seas. For the southwest coast, we've got small craft advisories for the Yukon Delta coast. Southeast 20 there, south of Nunivak Island. West 15 for the Pribilof. Small craft advisory, St. Matthew Island, north winds 25 knots. Northeast 25, St. Lawrence Island. And for the Monday outlook, north 20 knots, St. Lawrence Island. Northwest 20 for the northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island to the Yukon Delta coast. Kuskokwim Delta coast, southwest at 20, small craft advisories for the Pribilof Islands. Northwest winds 25 knots, seas 7 feet. And for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, west winds 25 knots. Good for small craft advisories, seas 4 to 5 feet. 20-knot west winds for the western Arctic coast, and from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast at 15. Swing it around to the southwest at 20 from Cape Thompson to Wales. And then for Monday, 15-knot north to northeast winds there from Cape Beaufort to Wales, western Arctic coast northeast at 10. And then for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, west winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. For tonight, some lingering rain, light rain, and a little breezy at times, but not too bad wind-wise, central western Arctic coast, down from what you had today up there. Otherwise, fair and dry over the interior, increasing rain along the southwest coast, and Kodiak Island pushes well inland and up Cook Inlet tomorrow. Best chance northern Cook Inlet late in the afternoon through tomorrow night. Wet for Kodiak Island, dry for the Panhandle. Showers with that stalled front up along the Brooks Range there, but dry in the central interior. Not too bad out over the Aleutians. Outlook for Monday. Rain along the North Gulf Coast pushes in toward the Panhandle, but should stay a dry day for the southeast coast, but periods of light rain, cloudy skies over the southern half of the state, northern half drier, and light winds continue over the Bering Sea and Aleutians. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.